Thank you. It's always great to come back after a few months and see what you're all up to. And, when I was little, probably like many of you, I absolutely loved bedtime stories. It didn't matter, what day of the week it was. I had to make sure that I had a bedtime story before I went to bed. And whether it was my mom, my dad, or one of my 3 older brothers, I made sure they took my favorite puppet, which was this little sort of short brown and white dog whose name was Puppy. It was real original, right? A dog named Puppy. And they would tell me a bedtime story. Now, it wasn't just, them bringing the puppy to life, making him go on all these different adventures that I loved. It was the contents of the story. And, as I travel around, people really connect with stories. It doesn't matter if we're, 5 years old or, 50, we absolutely love stories. And that's how we really connect with people. But, what exactly makes up a story? And it's really 3 simple things. The first thing is setting, and then characters and a plot. And, when we think about setting, it's simply our environment or our surroundings. So if you think about our setting here today, it's Indian Lake High School. That's where you grew up. That's, maybe something that we don't necessarily have much control over. But what we do have control over with setting is that we have the maybe opportunity to travel. FFA has lots and lots of opportunities that you are able to go on trips like to national convention, state convention, or even go to a contest or two. And back in January, I had the opportunity through FFA to just travel to South Africa. And I was there for 2 weeks and with 75 other state officers from across the country, and we engaged in their agriculture industry and as well as learned about their culture. And as we traveled around, I sort of thought about it of, how is their setting, part of their story, different from what I have back home? And, obviously it's halfway around the world, so it's vastly different. But one of the biggest points that really stuck out to me was in South Africa, they have 11 official languages. And when we were engaging with the waiters here and there at dinner, they would tell us, all these different things and, how to say hello, goodbye, and all these, small words in each of their languages. And the one waiter shared with us that in the city that he lived, and most of the cities around South Africa, you needed to be able to speak 3 languages in order to survive. That just blew my mind. And if you think of, here in the United States, we only barely speak 1 language, right? But their perception is that they need to speak multiple languages because they have such a diverse culture. As I travel and compare to what I have back home, it makes me sort of appreciate where I've came from and what we have. A lot of times, especially in high school, we say we can't wait to graduate, we can't wait to move on to the next chapter. And then once you move on to college, move out, or start to travel, you realize that your setting made up so much of who you are. So part of developing our own story is realizing not only the setting we started in, but the opportunities that we have to, expand our setting and really interact with those opportunities that we have in front of us. But setting alone doesn't necessarily write our entire story. We need some characters, if you will. So characters may be your friends, your family, people you meet. And one person I've met this year that has definitely, made an impact on my life was by the name of Pablo. Now, Pablo was from an FFA chapter in Northern Ohio, and he's from Spain. He traveled to the United States as an exchange student. And one thing he shared with me when I first met him was that, agriculture in his country is sort of looked down upon. If he told his friends back home that he was in FFA, they would laugh at him. And he said, you know what, I don't care because I want to enjoy what we have to offer. And he was getting involved in the creed speaking contest, going to soils and enjoying all these different things. And he had this just glowing expression of happiness and just true friendship. And characters that we may meet, whether it be our best friend or a stranger on the street, have the power to impact our stories and our lives, sort of like Pablo impacted mine. And when I think about, even more characters than in my life, I think of my 3 older brothers. Not only is it, just a handful when we're around each other, but they also bring into that third point of our story, the plot or the conflict. Not only do we get in trouble every now and then, interacting with each other, but also they sort of, help you build and find that way that we so desperately need. And when I think about one plot or, addition to my conflict that my brothers have brought into my life, it was that they all 3 were in FFA. So I thought, joining this organization, I knew exactly where I wanted to go, what I wanted to be. And, as I started to get going, I realized I was sort of in the shadow of my older brothers. And I'm sure those of you that have older siblings in the crowd can relate to that of, how do you break out of that shadow? Sort of a problem or a conflict. And as I thought about it, and as I grew older, I thought, you know what? I know how I can, solve this problem. So I decided that I was going to be a little bit different from my brothers and do more supervised agricultural experiences than they did, because they would, maybe do a diversified crop, beef production, and a few others. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take the family dog and turn it into a business. So I started breeding golden retrievers, and that allowed me to break out of the shadows of my brothers. Now, not only did that help my story grow, but it also made me realize how much more I could continue to grow my story if I was willing to expand my mind and see what possibilities were in front of me. Not only when we think about what settings do we have in our lives, the characters that we meet, as well as, what problems we have to overcome, we have to ask ourselves, what type of story are we writing? Are you adding a new chapter to your story, or are you sort of staying in the same place? And if you are flipping that chapter to the new page, what page is that on? And what do you want it to say? A lot of you in the crowd, especially the FFA members, you have a great opportunity in front of you. FFA has allowed you to go to new places, win, tremendous awards, and visit places that you may have not been able to go before. FFA can help you write your story. My question to you is, what will your story be? Help you find that setting that you might want to go to, as well as realize and appreciate the setting you have here. It's been a pleasure to meet a lot of you, and I would definitely say that you all have helped expand my story, and I continue to be thankful for, being able to come do a chapter visit here and watch you all grow throughout the year, and I encourage you to keep writing your own story. Thank you for having me tonight, and have a great trip home.